So it is officially my 4th year on this YouTube channel. And out of 4 years, I never once have done a front yard tour. And today is the day I start. It's your host with the most, Paul Cantu, reminding you that Earth is my planet.
Earth is my planet.
So before we get started, I just want to tell y'all what this yard was like originally. It was all grass. There were no garden beds, a couple of measly dying shrubs in the front. And after the great Arctic blast, I had to restart my garden the right way. So I took out a ton of those shrubs. I sheet mulched all the grass, and then I threw in the bricks to line the entirety of this garden. With that being said, it is time to get started. This is one of the hardest places that I have to grow in my yard. I am surrounded by giant post oak trees, a hot setting sun, in an area that for most of the day is shaded until the sun sets, where it is blasted with the heat of, once again, that setting sun. So with all the root pressure sucking up the moisture from multiple giant trees and pine trees, this area has been rifled and filled with challenges, but I think I've gotten a good hold on things. And the reason why I'm shooting this video in the winter time is because we have another Arctic blast and a major freeze coming in 2 days. And having subtropical plants in Houston, Texas means that when the freeze comes through, a lot of these subtropical plants get blasted down all the way to the roots. And they take about a year to get back to this point. So we're gonna probably start the process all over again once this freeze comes through. But while things are looking somewhat spiffy, I figured let's dive into these plants and I'll show you guys the progress I have made along the way. So first and foremost, we are starting with the front garden bed. Again, you have 2 giant post oaks coming down. You ain't winning if you ain't twinning, and these two know that is right. So when I did my front yard makeover, I wanted the entire edge of the bed to be lined with purple and then built up to layers of lime green, another maroon burgundy green, and then we have the pittosporum in the back, which were the shrubs that this garden actually came with, or the limited amount of landscaping that the property came with when I bought it. So the pittosporum does add a nice back layer. But with that being said, I'm not the biggest fan of the aesthetic of these plants overall. They don't really have too many wildlife benefits, but they cover up the fence line and form a nice backdrop. So while I let everything else fill in the meantime, I am leaving those guys until the other plants I added are big enough to hold down the landscape's gravitas on their own. So again, starting in the front, you have the purple wandering dude, which is great in this area where it can get dry. It is somewhat shaded, but does get dappled light. And then we move on to the shell ginger, a gorgeous variegated plant that adds a nice slime lime green to the front of this bed. And man, these guys do die back, as I mentioned, during freezes, but they always reliably come back. Then we have my Turk's Cap hibiscus. This is a plant that is native to Houston, Texas, and it has amazing red flowers. It's pretty much done, seeing as it is January, but we do have a holdout right here that does accurately capture the size, the essence, and color of the flowers, and you can eat the bottoms. They are sweet. What also is cool about this time of year is the Turk's Cap currently has an apple on it. Now these are edible, and they're not actually an apple, that's just what they're called. And squirrels eat these things. I'm gonna try it. It's somewhat sweet, but it doesn't really taste like much, to be honest. And these aren't a high yielding plant that would really be a beneficial food crop whatsoever. But that is just a cool added aspect to the Turk's Cap. Now the layer behind the Turk's Cap, we have my Thai plants, my cordyline fruticosas, and these guys add a divine pop of color to the garden. Their new leaves are a gorgeous pinkish hue, and being in this shady area most of the day, these aren't as bright red as they can potentially get. But with that being said, they still do hold down the space and look great. But with the freezes, they die to the ground and then re-emerge. So before this freeze comes through, I'm gonna cut them, propagate them. That way I can put them back in once it does warm up. Now, in between the last layer, I also added these dwarf sable minor palmettos. Now, these guys can grow in dry conditions, super wet conditions, and in the shade, and they really do add a tropical flair. These guys, a subscriber actually sent me some seeds and I planted them, and they have gotten about this large, but trust me, when this specimen fully grows in, it's going to be massive. Then behind those, I threw in some canna lilies. You have the variegated canna lilies, and then you also have the half purple, half green. I don't know exactly what this variety is called, but I do know it puts on quite a show. They get about yay high and pop off with orange and yellow flowers, which look really nice. I also do want to apologize if cars are driving by. I'm on a fairly busy street, but let's continue on with the plant tour. I have a couple of Calicarpa americana that I planted. They have gone deciduous, but the birds absolutely love the fruit. And as you guys can see, we do still have some berries preserved on this specimen. These guys will get really large and fill in this area, and at that point we can get rid of the pittosporum. Now continuing on, we also have my leatherleaf mahonia, which has been holding on for dear life. It hasn't been doing great, but it hasn't been doing terribly, and I think this will be the 3rd year. So they say plants sleep, they leap, then they creep, or they sleep, creep, then leap. Yeah, that one. My bad. We also have my bird of paradise. This guy again is gonna get nuked to the ground during the freeze and will come back, as is the case with my variegated yucca I have front and center. We also have my red buckeye, which is obviously deciduous right now, but you guys can see it already is budded up, and this guy puts on quite a show when it puts off its red trumpet like flowers. We have a small cordyline tucked away right back here. We also have my gorgeous sunshine anise, which are coming in nice and strong. These should maintain the leaves during the cold, which is nice. Hopefully they can likewise survive the drought. Now right here we have my sago palm, which I got for free. It looks like it finally is. Good Lord, there's so much noise right now. Someone literally trashed it, and it has put on quite a bit of frond or leaf growth. It looks like it is about to pop out with some new ones right front and center, but with that being said, the freeze might knock it back a tad. In the back we have 2 bananas. These have stayed pretty small, seeing as they don't get all too much light, except for right now when the sun is going down. And then in the very front, I threw in more of that lemon lime with these nice carexes. Okay, gorgeous clumping grass. They haven't done as great as I would like, but there are like 5 of 7 that I put in the ground that are still holding on. We also have my salvias, which are gorgeous and popping. They have blue flowers that the bees absolutely love. And then we have a little bit of edibles in the front with the Okinawan spinach. I'm gonna make cuttings of this before the freeze. It's like a spinach that has a slight spice to it. And this is the oldest specimen, and it clearly is doing the best. You guys can tell I love the hit of purple on the bottom of the leaves. I'm gonna harvest those, probably throw them in some sandwiches tomorrow. That way I can devour them before the cold temperatures do. Now I am glad the sun has crept out while I'm showing off my tropical salvia, but y'all can see the massive growth it has put on, and it started off nice and small like this and has gotten thick over time. Now we also have my native rough leaf dogwood. This is about to go deciduous, but it is another one of those plants that I really do gravitate towards because it has amazing berries for wildlife. It likes living on the forest edge. In this area where it is shady yet sunny at times is perfect. Now behind all of this, I have a Japanese yew, and this did come with the house. Again, it provides a nice backdrop, and all these little stringy doodads are actually grapes that I have planted. So I'm using this as a living trellis for my grapes. And then I also have another cordyline fruticosa. This one is much stronger and healthier, which is doing great. Again, I want to make cuttings and propagate the hell out of this guy. So overall, I think that was a nice quick little breakdown and synopsis of the front bed that I have created. I also have a couple of trees that were here when I bought the property, such as this giant crepe myrtle. A lot of people keep these guys smaller, but y'all can see, man, this dude is getting huge. I actually went to the Houston Arboretum and I saw a giant one of these trees pop up, and it was amazing to see them reach their full maturity. But with that being said, I might actually chop both of them down because I have another one right here. This guy is all white like a poltergeist, and the other one is a nice blush of pink. But alas, we have arrived at my front yard pond in my circular garden bed. Now this area is pure chaos. I'm not even going to lie. Everything has grown in past my humble expectations. So we're just gonna start with my lantana that has yellow flowers. This guy is popping off. It has gotten huge. It was just a small cutting and now it's turned into a large something. Bro, the traffic noise never stops. Then in the very front, we have my golden sword yucca, which has amazing variegation. And this one actually is cold hardy. I have another one that I did place in the front of the pond, and it is popping off like nobody's business. It is absolutely huge. Here's another lantana that I threw in. Then you have the wandering dude creeping and crawling in its purple mites all throughout the landscape. A couple of inland sea oats are growing as well. And then I put a passion flower vine or a maypop, which is native to the Houston area, in the garden by my pine tree. And you guys can see it has sent runners that are popping out all throughout the landscape. It is a host plant, I think, to the Gulf fritillary, and I always see them flocking about the garden, which is very cool. But this dude is popping up here, then along the pond's edge right here as well, and then even over there, literally everywhere. Look, another one. So I am gonna dig out a lot of these shoots because they will wrap around everything and tend to take over. The flowers look awesome, but I need to manage it a little bit more, which I haven't really done too much this year. I kind of just let it grow wild. Speaking of wild, we have a coreopsis growing in the front. Some kids threw some stones right there. We also have this variegated agave, which I got in South Texas. It looks amazing. I love it right here in the front, and there is a little pup popping off. So now congratulations to me. I'm gonna have about 2 of these. Now we have a giant agave right here, or a century plant. I need to move that. It'll get huge and take over the entire area. One of my knockout roses is doing well. It lost a couple of petals, but this is what I mean. This is the monstrosity of the passion flower that is taking over. I have a sunshine ligustrum that is growing on. I have Mexican, aka tropical milkweed, that is taking over. Even my sable minor palmetto that is larger and is growing very well is getting grabbed up. As is my pond plant, where I have this horsetail reed. It's being absolutely consumed and grabbed up on by the passion flower. Okay, now my pond itself is popping off with a ton of plants. So many different plants that have popped up. It actually kept clogging the pump of the pond. And with that being said, I just deactivated the pump altogether. I need to get a bigger one, but believe it or not, there are a couple of goldfish that are still surviving and thriving in the pond area in and of itself. My canna lilies, which look amazing, especially in the setting sunlight. Now I have to say, I love all the stones and sticks that I threw out the pond area. They're perfect habitat for all the lizards and wildlife. It's a bit cold for the lizards to be out, but my guara still is flowering. All my autumn sage is popping on the side. And then we have this beauty. My blue mist flower is in flower, and it looks awesome. You talk about flower power, that one definitely qualifies. A couple of weeks ago, this entire stand of it was encrusted in nothing but blue flowers. Y'all can see it has gone to seed, so I probably will spread this throughout the back garden landscape and in some blank space. I also chunked up a bird feeder recently, and then my Tacoma. You gotta love it. This specimen has taken off. I'd say it's about 15 feet high at this point. It has gone to seed. It was covered in gorgeous yellow bell-shaped flowers, which I loved, but y'all can just see the magnitude and the majesty of this Tacoma. My pine tree, it's doing great. I also did throw in this azalea, like my first year of gardening. It's doing horribly. And then of course we have this gorgeous Texas sage, which is thriving and surviving. Now that pretty much is the front circular bed. It just has a lot going on in this area, okay? But there still is a half crescent moon of blank space that I am going to take on and tackle. We have my butterfly bush that is right here. This is a Florida native, and then more boxwoods all the way up to my doorstep. Now this Tacoma popped up from seed, and then right around back, this is going to be the end of the garden tour, I threw in more of these Texas sages, which are taking over, and I'm just waiting until they do surpass the boxwoods in height, and then I am going to most likely remove these and put a bunch of flowers in the front. And then where no tree could go, because this pine tree has such deep and big roots, I threw in a Vitex tree that has gone deciduous, and this guy I just put on the ground in a pot, and then over time the roots went through the bottom of the pot and actually sunk themselves into the ground. So then I surrounded this area with all types of fallen trees, tree trunks. This was actually a palm tree that someone cut down, and then I put soil and mulch all up in it. And I am going to trim this guy up to a single trunk in the near future in February. That way it is not a multi-trunk shrub, but a single trunked tree right there. But with that being said, that is my front yard garden tour. That is my little monologue of this space. Again, nothing but green lawn transitioned into some subtropical and native plant paradises. I like putting native plants obviously to benefit the wildlife and all that, but I had to rush capture this footage in the morning and then now in the evening to show you guys the exemplary performance that it is doing before this freeze does come through. But if you guys enjoyed, please smash the like button. If you have ideas for any of these areas, let me know in the comment section down below, and stay tuned to see how I prepare for the freeze. Until next time, always remember, Earth is my planet. Earth is my planet. I'm locked, I'm loaded, and I'm out. Hopefully the audio's been good. This mic is kind of skimpy and crazy, but I'll catch y'all then. Peace. Killing these songs, leaving a bloody life I roost to. And I'm in it to win it, so I'm somebody that you should get used to.